What's up, y'all? TBrown31 here with JaboctheGreat. Welcome back to another episode of The Last Word. Today we're going to start with Texas A&M and LSU. That was a huge game in the SEC from Saturday night. We actually both picked this upset. Probably didn't expect A&M to come out and drop 40 on them with a crazy second half, led by Marcel out there. But in the end, Texas A&M gets the upset, and of course they move up into the top 10 in the AP poll. Just at number 10, LSU drops all the way down to 16.
Yeah, this is a tough one. You kind of can't really fault the committee for dropping LSU the way they did, because LSU comes out of this game starting out pretty hot, pretty strong, and then just completely folds in the second half. A&M makes a big change, bringing in Marcel, and LSU could not keep up with that change, which is crazy when you look at the game, even watching. Not even just the stat sheet here. It's just you kind of just think like, how in the world does this happen to LSU? So for A&M, they start out with Connor Wegman. It does not go that well. He goes 6 for 18, 64 yards, 0-0 touchdown interception ratio. Not really anything notable on the ground for him either. They swap out for Marcel Reed, and he comes in and goes 2 for 2 in the air with 70 yards, outpassing Wegman in just 2 passes. No incompletions on that one. Gets 9 carries, including 3 touchdowns on 62 yards. Massive for him. When this game was on, I was out at a restaurant. I was on the big screen, keeping up with this. And you kind of just start to think like, man, like no way this is happening. And you started texting me as well about Marcel Reed being him. I mean, it's just true. He comes in, gets a 20-yard scamper, gets a few 8-yard touchdowns. Next thing you know it, A&M goes from being down 17-7 to up and scoring 40 points. So crazy momentum shift to switch quarterbacks on this one. Bring in Reed, who's just a little more dynamic on the ground. And speaking of the ground game, this is where A&M did most of their work, which is something you don't see in a game of a kind of this nature where it's like a traded blowout. But Amari Daniels led the Aggies on the ground with 91 yards. Marcel Reed was third with his 62 yards. And Le'Veon Moss was second on the ground with 83 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns himself. He did have a fumble, but that wasn't anything too crazy. Noah Thomas led them in the air with 54 yards. That was pretty much half of what they had total in the air. And then big thing for the second half, not only does Marcel Reed come on and catch fire, but you got BJ Mays picking off Garrett Nussmeier twice and Torian York picking him off, and then the LSU Tigers having a second fumble in addition to, or their own fumble that would give the ball back to A&M. So LSU doesn't look so great. 25 for 50 for Garrett Nussmeier, 405 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. He does have a rushing touchdown as well, so 3 for 3 pretty much overall. Not a whole lot going on the ground for LSU, right? So you got the touchdown from Nussmeier, but otherwise the most notable, Josh Williams leads them with 23 yards, no touchdowns. They're, obviously much better in the air. They get 405 yards. Aaron Anderson gets 125 of those and gets a touchdown for himself. Kyron Lacey picks up 106 yards, but Mason Taylor would be the other LSU receiver to bring in the air touchdown on 21 yards. And then Jordan Gilbert brought in the Le'Veon Moss fumble. Obviously, as I said, LSU had a team fumble to go along with Nussmeier's 3 picks, so 4 total turnovers in that second half to start the landslide that would lead the Texas A&M Aggies to take this victory. So yeah, I mean, this is a great college football game. You start out, it looks like Texas A&M is out of it, right? It's 10-7 in the first quarter, but I don't know. LSU scores in that second quarter right before halftime, and you're looking at the 17-7 hole, and it kind of just feels like maybe that's it. And then boom, out of nowhere, LSU starts throwing picks. Marcel Reed comes in, and the momentum entirely shifts. I don't know. It's just kind of crazy to watch a game completely flip on its head like that, but it does. And A&M comes away with a big victory, push themselves in the top 10, and take LSU out of the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, it's not real often that you see a complete switch in a game like that from first to second half. I mean, really, third quarter on, that's when A&M took complete control of this game. As rough as A&M looked in the first half, it should have really been worse. I mean, LSU missed 2 field goals early on that they probably should have made. Issues with the kicker and the holder and whatnot. And there's another issue later on, as you mentioned, with the fumble. So it definitely could have at least been, 23-7 going into half, right? And as you mentioned, A&M did most of their damage on the ground, but early on, they weren't doing any of that, trying to, pass all over the field, couldn't do it. And really, it's not like LSU looked that great. I mean, obviously they had those 2 touchdown drives, short drives. Of course, the big touchdown to Aaron Anderson, of course, but it's not like LSU was out there dominating. It's just that it was like A&M was really doing nothing out there. So it definitely could have been worse. And then, like you said, Marcel Reed comes in for Connor. Obviously, when you watch it back, Connor was not happy about being benched when he was talking to the coach. But I mean, it is what it is. Like, they had to get some kind of spark. And we talked about this last week with the Texas game against Georgia. Taking out Quinn Ewers, putting in Arch Manning, and then putting Quinn back in. Like, I really like it. And maybe that would have gave him a spark, but I just don't. I don't really think it really would have mattered there. In this situation, it absolutely mattered. I don't say this lightly. I mean, he almost single-handedly won this game for A&M. I mean, I do want to give credit for the defense for getting those interceptions, making a play on that botched field goal attempt with the holder having the ball go right by him. I mean, it would have been turnover anyway. But still, those 2 interceptions off of Nussmeier were huge. He started unraveling, later in the game. Did have a touchdown sandwich in between that, but yeah, they unraveled so fast. I mean, I haven't seen too many games end like this. And Marcel Reed, I mean, he absolutely came in. He couldn't stop him on the ground. I mean, it was ridiculous. So I definitely anticipated. I mean, even Kirk was saying it. He's probably going to be starting now. From now on, for the rest of at least for the foreseeable future. They play South Carolina this weekend. So Texas A&M, like maybe LSU really wasn't that good. That's possible. I kind of said that earlier this season, but A&M right now looking real scary as of late.
Yeah, I think the ability to kind of take what they took in the first half, and like you said, it could have been worse. LSU had those missed field goals, and then to turn it around and come back out, even to start the second half, and both these two teams trade a few punts, and then the A&M just kind of locks in, gets that first interception, sets up Marcel Reed for 8-yard touchdown. Boom, LSU gets a long drive, fumbles, sets up the A&M to go back down and get another touchdown, and then boom, there's another pick. I think that it's kind of crazy to endure what they endured in the first half and pretty much be by all means for most people who are watching the game considered to be out of it, and then come back in and take it and still put up 40 points when you had 7 in the first half, and we're down 10. So big result for them for sure to get into that top 10 spot and to kind of put the league on notice, especially because they are now 7-1 overall and 5-0 in the SEC. They're currently sitting at the top of the SEC standings. So big game for them. LSU ends up, kind of around the 5th area for the SEC standings. A&M has put themselves up in that conversation with, a potential matchup with Georgia, Texas, or Tennessee as this season moves on. So big matchup, very resilient team. Yeah, got to get a lot of props to obviously Marcel Reed, but the A&M defense really comes out in the second half and I think ruins Garrett Nussmeier's night for sure, and takes a big victory here.